Oh, it is recording. Okay. So, number one. Yep. This is a video to Gary. Yes, he called me fat. That son of a bitch. Oh, you know how that makes me feel, being called fat and all. Anyway, yeah, I guess I'm a little puffy and, Leon's getting bigger. Leon's getting larger. Can't remember what show that's from, but maybe Gary will know. Anyway, this is what you call a bulker. Even though I'm not certain of the ingredients, I speculate, because I got them off a unnamed source. The goal of a bulker is to bring liquid, fill your flesh up more with water, and in doing so, it drags in more proteins, perhaps amino acids, into the cell so that those can be utilized for the growth of the cell. Anyway, my flesh is a little flabby. Okay, so with that being said, this is kind of a response video to Gary because he was watching, we were all part of Piro's illusions, or illusions are real, group hangout. And here comes Gary, not talking about illusions at all, wanting to make everything very pragmatic, very grounded, very, very natural, because he is a metaphysical naturalist. Of course, he would hate to be boxed into something philosophically, because that might narrow his point of view, and hence he wouldn't have that expansive influence outward that he so enjoys. So, anyway, without further ado,
it's all going to be reduced.
Here we go.
And that's the only way.
Oh, so then I make a comment on his follow-up video about leaving the room and how we actually had communication with one another on a very social level, and that there wasn't this ramrod being stuffed down everybody's throat for considerability, to consider ideas, to ponder ideas, to think about ideas. No, we have a jettisoned ramrod that Gary says are the premises of value ethics, I suppose, which is fine. But the room is about illusions being real, right? At least that's why I joined it. But Gary's just got to stick his little nose into everything and think that if it's not about value ethics as he presents it, or just value ethics in general, then it's not philosophy. Okay, so anyway, then he responds with a video where he ends up criticizing somebody else for not responding to a video, but he's recording the video. So I'm going to play a little bit of his video and make my comments.
It applies. It doesn't apply in any other circumstance. It's not a closed system, retard. Look outside. There's a big thing called the sun.
Okay, so here he says, he's talking about, we're not on a closed system. Look, there's the sun. So he's pointing to another heavenly body other than the earth. And yet at the end of this video, which I'll link, which he calls delusions, he ends with, we're all maggots. And when I am making commentary about our connection with the cosmos, the fact of our presence with it, his response is, what does that have to do with biology or biological evolution? And yet here he is at the very beginning, denoting we're not in a closed system.
It's not a closed system, you stupid fucking idiot. But this Vic guy, okay, right, we'll call him Ninja Pigeon, right? He has this icon, like he's some sort of ninja. Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Well, the problem is that he's just so tense. He doesn't understand, like, simple concepts, like what Hawkwood is trying to explain to him. Like I was about to say, so I'm like, Gary, do you understand the difference, let's say, between these two statements? Gary's suffering is a bad, quote-unquote, negative experience.
Gary's suffering is a bad, quote-unquote, negative experience. So that goes for all Garys, I assume, right?
Of course not. He's referring to you. Gary's subjective internal experience of pain that he is mapping the word bad to as a value ascription. That's what he's saying.
Or just this Gary. But yes, I'll agree. Gary's suffering is a bad thing. And that's different from this statement somehow.
And the statement, it is bad, negative for Gary to be experiencing suffering.
There you go. I don't see any difference between those two statements. My suffering is a bad thing. It's bad.
Okay, that's all he's got, really, right? He can't parse the difference between the internal subjective state and a objective shared dialogue, a discourse with other human beings via language, noting that they are having language speaking about value, speaking hermeneutically about somebody else's experience, internal experience, hermeneutically in that they are trying to empathize with what it is that they might be going through, and calling that, yes, if that is anything like what I have experienced, that is bad, as opposed to just Gary saying, oh, ouch, you know, exclaiming, expressing a bad. You know, he's like, there's no difference, it's just bad, right? So he's got this categorical one badness, that he's going to lay over these two things, right?
It's bad that I'm suffering. Let me just play it again, because it'll be worth it.
Okay.
I'm sure in the end.
Play it again. Play it again,
Gary.
Gary.
Understand, like, simple concepts, like what Hawkwood is trying to explain to him. Like I was about to...
Oh, look, Hawkwood is an idiot again. Like I said, he can't tell the difference between a world covered with people who have a nail in their eye and a world covered with people who are eating cupcakes. He doesn't think there's a real difference. He thinks there's only individuals going ouch, and that doesn't matter. So as long as it's just individuals going ouch, there's no difference. Somehow.
Okay, you know, this is really interesting because, you know, Gary, I knew my philosophy at the age of 7, and I just wasn't confident enough to state it and say, no, all this pain is so bad. And yet, so, from 7 to however in his 50s years old now, we'll just say 43 years, assuming that he's 50. Okay, 43 years, you know, Gary graduated, morphed, mutated, evolved, became what? Is he a philanthropist? Is he sending away his money? Did he save up his money that he gets from welfare of the government, from cleaning pools, from wherever the fuck he's getting his money? Did he save up $100 and buy a plane ticket to Haiti and bring down that $100 or buy $100 worth of canned food? Is he laboring actively? And okay, now that might throw the onus back on me. What have I done for charity? Well, I don't know. Not that it's any big deal, but soup kitchens, yes, and feeding the poor and the deprived and the desirous. Okay, anyway, but my point is, okay, so what Gary wanted, apparently, was not to actually solve the problem of philanthropy and world hunger, but to generate a philosophy of blowing up the planet, right? Because he's not going to stop all the animals from breeding, and he's probably not going to convince enough humans to stop breeding, but even hypothetically, if he could use logic in this ethical system to convince all humans, you know, first make sure they know language, and then convince all humans to not have kids, and then everyone go extinct, you know, he'd still have to destroy the other sentient animals to do this. So he's got this mastermind desire, the effortless blow up red button, blow up the universe desire, which is dandy in all of its stupendously, outrageously, absurdly large. One might even call the dream of doing such a thing phantasmagorical. Phantasmagorical, Gary. Okay, so anyway, whatever. It's value ethics, right? It's philosophy, as he puts it, and these are value ethics. And so, okay, here we go. We're continuing.
It's only a difference to the individuals. It's not a real difference or a meaningful difference. Nothing to see here.
Right, okay. Now, he's saying that Hoffladay is just seeing people say ouch, and that's all it is. It's not a meaningful difference between him and the other people saying ouch, right? And yet, to what extent, once again, to what extent is Gary actualizing the reduction of suffering of concurrent living sentient entities? I proclaim, I insist, I'm putting forward the idea that his real ethic, the pragmatic, grounded, ontological fact of how he will move through life, is based on some periphery of care. Like, I will care for my cat, I will care for the neighbor's cats. If another human is within my vicinity, I will help them out in some means. You know, it's limited to the scope of what one human could do, but by no means is he, Mother Teresa. He'd rather spend money on a new computer, or getting his website up, or getting something going. He is assuming somehow that he's going to convince us that he does care about all these ouches, right? As opposed to just stating a logical value ethic of my pain bad, their pain bad, that equivalent, right? He's also, the asshole accuses me of not being able to paraphrase, his argument that pain is bad and suffering is bad, and we're here to reduce suffering, and so don't have kids.
To say, so I'm like, Gary, do you understand the difference, let's say, between these two statements? Gary's suffering is a bad, quote-unquote, negative experience, and the statement, it is bad, negative, for Gary to be experiencing suffering.
Yeah, I don't, frankly, I don't know. The semantic parsing there is so thin, I don't know what the difference could possibly be. Suffering be bad. Gary, Larry, Barry, doesn't matter. And anyway, so let's see what the response is. I haven't seen this yet, but I could see Pirro chiming and goes, oh yeah. And I'm just saying, too stupid.
So like, notice how the context is entirely different. In the former, we're talking about a subjective state of experience.
How is it subjective? How is the former a subjective?
The former is subjective, Gary, because it's something that your physiology is experiencing that you would prefer it did not experience. That is how it's subjective. It's subjective because he's referencing your internal state hermeneutically, empathetically, through logic, through discourse, through consideration. That's what he's doing. And you're saying, how is it?
You described accurately Gary's suffering is bad. So how is that subjective?
The lingual placement, and this is my root disagreement with your whole philosophy. The sensation, the signal of pain or discomfort or something what we call repulsive or negative, right? The value placement is lingual. It's public, right? So we're sharing the word bad or negative verbally, lingually with one another. The subjective experience may actually be the same for two people, and yet, you know, hypothetically, as if we could know, as if we could test that, and yet their responses may be different. The words they use, the supposed value statements may be entirely different. I can experience much greater degrees of pain now than I used to in the past. You know, infants seem to get upset if they're rubbed by their father's, you know, beard scruff. You know, it's interesting that you, at this point, you know, for assuming yourself to be such a sophisticated intellect of philosophy, the idea of subjective and public are, well, they're the same to you.
Say to Gary.
In the latter, we're talking about existence itself. And the former doesn't logically entail the latter. But if you try to explain that to him, he just thinks that you're just some evil monster who doesn't see any quality.
No, you're dumb motherfuckers. Okay, the fact that dumb is, in a sense, colossally fail and will do bad things is a fact. So yes, you're evil, but that's the default of dumb.
Qualitative difference between, you know, stabbing someone in the eye and feeding them a cupcake. He just doesn't get it.
Qualitative difference between stabbing somebody in the eye and a cupcake. There's not a qualitative difference. I don't get something. Did he say something rational here? Sorry, somebody can explain in the text how there's a rational difference. How some quote he made there made any sense at all. Please, fill me in.
Well, that's what I've been doing.
It's so bizarre as well.
Well, hang on, yes. I was curious, though, of, you know, Hawker mentioned that the argument came down to sameness, that his statement of his, you know, I like cheesecake and I want to cure cancer, one's subjective, the other one's external.
No, one's trivial, one's important.
Oh, God. See, okay, so I chime in there, and what it is I'm saying is I'm saying one likes cheesecake, meaning I being one, I like cheesecake, right? That's something of a subjective experience. And I want cheesecake, so I'm pointing to the, once again, the subjective, and then I'm pointing to somebody curing cancer being good. I'm pointing once again to the objective, the public domain, which is exactly what Birdman, Pigeon Man, dipshit, who's not really a dipshit because you're too nice, dense to figure this out. And what you do, see, Gary, this is where the shift is, where you think that other people don't see what you're saying, but really, you don't see what other people are saying, which is my criticism of you. You don't listen. You don't get it. You don't fucking get it. The point is, but okay, so what you're doing is okay, let's see how it is you do interpret it.
Trivial, important, silly, important.
Right, so what you heard was eating the food was trivial and curing cancer is important, right? So, and maybe all I'm doing is thinking, okay, so does this mean that the public domain, the shared domain, the lingual domain, is more important? And I'm assuming no, because it's the grandeur of cancer that you're sensing this. But the point is that you didn't catch the stream of the conversation up to this point. You just think you did.
But, you know, none of you people can ever paraphrase the argument correctly.
Hoffman, they had mentioned that it is equating the sameness of badness or goodness that is what he's doing. And then to disjoint those and by necessity disjoint them. But
yeah, whatever. Again, a lie. So another accusation from another fact-tard.
Okay, so what I am saying is, here's Gary taking the subjective fact of pain and an objective example of pain, and he's just looking at the value of badness, overlaying both of these and saying they are the same. And so what I am saying here, Gary, is the disjunction between knowing the subjective experience and giving it tonal quality and value through one's expression outward is different and disjointed than having somebody who is not having that sensation empathize with it lingually and discuss it objectively publicly. And that is the disjointment that I'm talking about. And what do you have to do? Call me a fathead. So here we got this emotional reaction, like, okay, so here's how Gary's going to play it out, like, dipshit, retard, fat fuck, blah, blah, blah. Like, everybody who doesn't want to play Gary's little softball game is going to get demeaned. Right, and then he's going to say, this is the argument, and I'm going to put it forward like my little baby. Here's the argument. And if you don't like it or its premises, the fuck you. Fuck you.
I'm curious of, Gary as a psychological argument that bonds those two together. And I'm also curious of the possibility of why it is they're detached.
Yeah, silly compulsions are silly, okay? Emotional responses to real problems in the world aren't silly.
Emotional, what did he say? Emotional, he didn't say reaction. Emotional responses to problems in the real world are not silly. Okay, so emotion, so now, which is funny, as opposed to action to solve the problem, it's emotional response to problems in the world, which shows, once again, my point, which is Gary's whole manner of existence. If one looks at Gary as an ontological, psychological human organism, what does he do? He's emoting a philosophy, and he's using lingual logical grounds in order to format and lock down this justification for a master plan as opposed to a convenient pragmatic reduction of suffering, like spending your time to become a doctor, or spending your time being like Mother Teresa, or being a philanthropist, or something else. No. It's an emotional response that he's going to lay down in logic. Fuck you.
Point where you say, I think it's a good thing to cure cancer in this case, and I think it's a good thing to have kids. Because he sees the I as representing his own pain. You know what?
Yeah, whatever. Again, more crap. No, yeah, that's right. I learned from experience, unlike you retards.
Okay, so I haven't learned from my experience. He didn't learn from his experience. So now it's just complete dismissal, right? You guys haven't learned because look at me. I'm fucking gold. You guys aren't adapting. You're not in agreement. You're criticizing. So fuck, whatever, Gary. It's fucking pathetic, like Luddites. It's pathetic.
It's just your mic sucks, dude. It's so low and like sounds. It's like I'm interrupting you and you're still speaking. So I apologize. Yeah, it could sound really low. Yeah, I mentioned that before on your lectures. So I didn't expect it. From a double-act perspective, you can look down at the columns on the chessboard and say they're all equal, and that there's no reason to distinguish them. Well, only from a godlike perspective.
Only from a godlike perspective. So again, this is some sort of incredible godlike power that we have to sit there and look at the game we're playing and recognize that human, chimpanzee, lion, elephant. That is a godlike power. We have just, walked on fucking water because we recognize sentient machine. Amazing. How do I have to have this conversation? Again, I was with a bunch of 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds today.
Oh, okay. So all Gary is expressing is this idea, like, look, hey, somebody else feels pain, and look, Bobby, Spot, your dog hurts when you pull its ear or pet it up the fur instead, or stick a stick in its paw. Help it, empathize. Like he thinks that we don't know that other animals or other sentients feel pain. Now, in massive, otherly, internalized meditation on the universe and solipsism at large, I could come to a different conclusion and speak about that, and I have in some respect, but it's not gelled with, because I'm grounded here into the pragmatics, and I'm not in disagreement. Other people feel pain. Other animals feel pain. And here he is assuming that this isn't the case. But what Hoffladay, I believe, is getting at is something like this, Gary. Now, see if you can follow this. Because now, and I'm going to assume that your real, true empathy has a perimeter around it. You're not going to Haiti. You're definitely not going to Africa. You're probably not going to ever fucking leave Inmendham. The whole point is there appears to be a limit. And so if it came down to, okay, Gary, here's your dad who feels pain at 90, whatever he is, and here's a lion that feels pain. Now, I want you to kill your dad or with this stick, this dull blade, or I want you to kill this lion with this stick or this dull blade. Well, they both feel pain, so I might as well flip the fucking coin, right? As opposed to saying, bacteria over there, okay, not sentient. Okay, how about a amoeba. No. Okay, bacteria. No. Okay, let's get up cockroach. Okay, cockroach or your dad. Oh, well, they both feel pain. Wait. Okay, so let's go a step further. Okay, a mouse and a lion. Well, which am I going to kill, the mouse or the lion? The fish or the mouse? And just keep bringing it back in, compare it all to your dad, who are you going to kill? Because they all feel pain. Okay, you have to kill 5 lions or kill your dad with the stick, right? And then slowly bring it right into home, like, okay, the people that you love and care about, right? And then bring it down to, how about the idea of if you had a sibling that was a twin that was exactly like you, like a clone of you, an identical twin, and you were sitting there, and you had a knife, and you had to choose, well, I'm going to stick the knife in my hand or in my twin's hand, whose hand are you going to stick it in? Are you going to, at this point, say, Hoffladay, well, we both experienced pain. When Hoffladay's point, dipshit, is that at some point, as you narrow the field, Spock, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. And so Gary wants to make certain that the value ethic is public to the point where the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. So and then accuse everyone else of being Menglers because they would rather save themselves, not harm themselves. They would rather harm somebody else just like them, or if they have a loved one like a parent or a family or a child, and they would kill 10 other people, 100 other people to save them from this person, right? That's the difference that he's getting at.
They could understand this. They wouldn't have any problem saying, oh yeah, I feel, Jimmy feels, Susie feels, yeah, I get that. They would all like to be the winner. They would all like to do that. Yeah, they could get...
See, now all of a sudden, there's something kind of interesting that creeps up in Gary's psychology. Instead of talking about pain, now it's about winning, a social convention, a social thing, right? Where Gary knows that in the game of life, he kind of lost, right? In terms of whatever the inherited cultural structure or paradigm is that says you are successful in that you've successfully reproduced, you have a successful job, your persona is successful, but he grabbed onto whatever remaining thing he could, like so many other people that have, either bad luck, bad circumstances, something else that gets them to win, You know, you grab onto what you have left and you make fucking lemonade out of the lemons that you're left with. I'm not judging Gary for that. I'm just saying, let's take an interesting look that instead of talking about physiological pain and commonality, he brings it into a social hierarchical status of winners. Interesting. Fucking way interesting. And I think this tells something about Gary, right? Something psychological about Gary, but he wants to make sure it still remains philosophical and not psychological. But if we're going to actually compare people to other people, we have to look at the whole person the best we can scope them.
That wouldn't be complicated. You people are just fucking goddamn maliciously fucking stupid.
If you were actually at home, you have no argument.
Okay, anyway, so let's hope this is recording. Okay, I'm at 31 minutes. Here we go. Me and my fat chin, my fat face, talking to Gary because I'm so irrational and I never make any sense and I'm just deluded. And I got UFOs running on my ass. Okay. Let's see.
Significantly different than parameciums. They're significantly different than redwood trees. You fucking idiot. You can't tell the difference between the living and the dead, can you? You really just can't. The awake and the asleep.
I accept that, you know. But at the same time, as if I'm alive as a sentient being, it's up to you what you value. I value.
There you go. It's up to you. Just make it up.
Right. Okay. So Stizer says, you know, to reiterate, you know, it's up to the individual as to what they're going to value. And Gary's response is this fucking smug, just make it up. It's not like it's not, you know, it must be pain and negativity. It must be that. You can't just make it up, right? Even though Gary's made up, if we look at what he does, how he spends his time, he values getting on the internet and demeaning other people and putting forth his value ethic, metaphysical naturalism approach and domineering it or trying to perpetuate. That's a value that he's chosen to navigate through. He's not out fucking helping the dead fucking pigeon in the forest he lives by. He's not down the street feeding the homeless. No. He chooses this value system. And that's all Stizer is saying, is you choose the value. I want an apple? No, I think I'll have some celery today. I want my lights brighter? I want these different... just make it up. You think that other people aren't considering their life. Yeah. You know, it's a fucking embarrassment. Your true lack of communication, commune, connection, real empathy with where other people are coming from. You are so lopsided, so one-sided, so, I use the word canonized later, and I don't mean canonized like Catholic canonization. I mean that your view is in a goddamn canon. You're inside this little plugged pain bad, suffering bad, and stuffering, and procreation.
Okay, there is no real value, so torture is arbitrarily decided. Arbitrary. It's not a rational understanding that torture is bad. It's not a real...
Okay, so once again, it comes down to this. You have to... Okay, Gary, either you're going to kill your dad with this dull stick, or you're going to kill these 3 mice with a dull stick and this lion with a dull stick. Okay, now, and if you don't, then you're going to be killed by it, and then whoever killed you is going to also kill all these. So to reduce suffering within yourself, the subjective sensation, you probably want to choose. Okay, either the 3 mice and the lion or your dad. Now, we're not saying that this is not bad. We're not going to say this is not bad. This is bad, however you want to displace it. But it's up to you, Gary, when brass tacks comes down. When brass tacks comes down, what are you going to do within your value ethic, Gary? Are you going to kill more things, a total of 4 entities, or your dad, or have all of you die this miserable death? Right? Because more is worse than less, maybe, but maybe not. Right? And once again, they're all sentient, and so we know they're bad. So you've made that point. Oh yes, you've made that very flat, clear value point. Bad is bad. Bad is bad. But what would you do, Gary?
Reasoned understanding. It is not a collection of evidence that draws you to the frickin' conclusion that torture is bad. No, it's just psychological rubbish. You either feel like torture's bad or you don't feel like torture's bad. But
so this is how Gary, Gary's waxing on badness. Like, that's what people are comparing. When Hofladay's coming at you, when these other people are coming at you, they're thinking of scenarios they saw in video games, the one I'm presenting to you, things that people make up, things that happen in real war, real time, not the comforts of being a modern age white guy living in there as a fucking dependent, on the state. It's pathetic how you, Gary, want to arrange and make manifold the way you want discussions to be and create criticism and then demean the people you're around, as opposed to empathizing with perhaps a scenario or perhaps getting a grip that maybe, if you actually paid attention, that this thing that I'm talking about with the mice and the lion and your dad and death and dull blades, that maybe that is where the ethical measurements are coming from, where people are like, well, let's see, where would I, from my internal center, my heart, my being, my position, relative to this situation, what would I do? This isn't a matter of bad. This is an assumption that it's bad. It's knowing that it's bad. It's how do you play it, right? And here you are going, well, they must be fighting over whether it's bad. Fuck. Dance, motherfucker.
Logic has nothing to do with it. Yes, that's the nihilist way. Brilliant. Like opposite of.
Okay, and then Gary says, if somebody doesn't recognize the badness, if perhaps they're looking at it in this more three-dimensional, convoluted, empathetic, from the self relative to an actual horrific position sort of standard, if they're not just going to say bad, right? If they're not just going to say bad, then they must be nihilistic. If they don't hold the value, not just of value, but the value in the manner and in the way that Gary would like it, they must be nihilists. Right? So here's another example of either an off-on switch. Gary's got this binary thing. Now this comes down to the idea that value, the words bad and good, up and down, right? Up and down. Is there really an up and down in the universe? Is there really a convention? Or is that just because there's air here and ground there, and we say up, or can I turn the map upside down? Can I turn the globe upside down? Can I turn it inside out? Is there really an up in the universe? Is there really an up? And by that same thing, I'm like, is there really a bad? Is pain really a bad? Really a negative? Really, are we really going to put a binary state on a phenomena that one has? A phenomena that could be looked at as a signal, right? Like, I'm lifting weights. This is kind of uncomfortable. Yeah, that's becoming very uncomfortable. I wonder who won the Pietro Mayweather fight today. I wonder what I'm going to have for... Oh, yeah, by the way, that's uncomfortable. So interesting enough that I was able to move away from the signal and transpose another signal on it, not logically, but factually, and somehow disjoint myself from the experience, or coat the experience with a sign over this physiological signal. It's interesting at that point, even though the signal must have been firing, was it bad then? Or do I have to lay the value on it? Do I have to state the badness to the sensation? Is it possible that we can meander through, sacrifice, give up, let go, overlay, submit to horrific sensation, and then disclude it, code it, map it, separate? I say yes, and I say so based on personal experience. The idea of this binary value system instead of a robust spherical value system. Like, you'll hear Gary, if you listen to this, talk about some colors could even be looked at as bad. And I'm at this point like, yeah, go with that, Gary, go with that, right? Because finally, we're going to talk about the idea of value being any sensual phenomena that you like or dislike. But it's not even a matter of like or dislike in a binary way. It's more of 50 shades of gray between black and white. And that's how I learned value. Value is black and white. It's the tonal difference between dark and light, right? But for Gary, the physiology has to have a pain signal that is chronic enough to call suffering, right? Or there has to be existential suffering, but I certainly don't want him to default to speak about existential suffering or even psychological suffering, because really, when it comes to brass tacks, it's physiological suffering that he will reduce to if he's pushed to the fence, to the wall, to the edge, to the ropes. It goes back to physiology. And I remember when I broke my feet and my back and I was being manipulated, and the meditations I would go through and the displacement and how I escaped from the sensation, and then how I didn't only not escape from it at other times, but that it became the new level of sensation, the new ground, the new norm. So that pain at this point must have had to be something even worse than this new base level. I mean, Gary always argues for comfort, right? This bullshit notion that the notion of bliss and ecstasy and heaven are not extensions above and beyond a normative set of groundedness or comfort. But no, to Gary, these are only exercises in release of deprivation from a negative. As if masturbation is like, well, I was deprived of sex, Gary will say. So it's like, okay, sex, we're going to bring that up here and then say that it's a deprivation, as opposed to saying, no, sex is something that you build, you stack. You take your normal space and then you add to it. You build up to your ecstasy, to your orgasm, to your bliss, right? So once again, it's this notion, when it's convenient, there is a monism that is made, and that monism is found in the negative, that we only know. Even like logic rolls the dice will say, well, you only know up if you know down, right? So he's going to make upness dependent on downness, right? Just like Gary, like, you'll only know pleasure after you know pain. That you must know that, but to what extreme to know even greater pleasure, you must know even greater pain. You must extend the voluminous, the volume and length equally on both sides. But when I'm saying this mono view, it's like, okay, is pain a type of lack of pleasure, or is pleasure a type of lack of pain, right? Where one falls into the other one, right? So when it's convenient, they will do this and make it, well, it must start with pain and deprivation and then comfort and then pleasure come from that. It's never that we have an equilibrium, that people live and accept normative behavior as their base equilibrium, and from there they have little bouts of ooh, ow, and ah. It's like it's a demand and kind of a command and kind of a philosophical full court pressure to accept that it must be this way.
My own existence, obviously. I like this idea of being alive. I've got nothing.
Yeah, again, your psychology. Why don't you tell me how you like to masturbate? Again, it couldn't be more irrelevant, okay, your declarations about the significance of your existence outside of a rational argument of the purpose served by the existence and how it is somehow efficiently interacting with the other sentient beings on Earth, how you're profiting by being alive, how there is a profit being generated by your existence. No evidence of anything like that. Fuck.
Okay, so now what's interesting, right? Like, okay, here we go. So Gary, ironically, is going to talk about somebody else, like Steiser, talking about how he doesn't have a profit, and then Gary noting himself not being really like, well, what's the point of all this philosophy, even though I've chosen this, blah, blah, blah. That he's kind of in a way demeaning himself and saying, there is no profitability to your existence, right? And so, you take Buddhism or Catholicism or a lot of the ancient ethical systems, and, God is found from within. When one seeks God, they find themselves. When one seeks themselves, they find God. These are internal, meditative, escalating states of yoga and chakras and kundalini and meditation, and the archetypes and the elevation that one comes to know as they meditate internally has these very amazing and publicly reflected facts, awareness about this. It's something that the ancients and that these religious sects seem to know about enlightenment, about self-increase, about beautifying the self to the self by finding the self internally, right? Which is just one hand. That's just one thing to do. Where Gary's ethic is, no. Don't get into all of that spiritual. Pragmatize it, ground it, rationalize it, bring it out, and then equate it. You, them, we maggots. Well, maggots turn into flies. Caterpillars turn into butterflies. They eventually get there, then they fly. Angels get their wings, right? However you want to say it, but you're going to stick with the maggots. We're a big pile of maggot shit. We're a big pile of maggots on a planet of maggot shit, and that's the metaphor you want to use. Because Gary's big on metaphors, so we're maggots. Hole on one end, hole on the other. It was interesting. Somebody saying Ernest Becker, we're angels with assholes, saying the same thing. Oh, well, you got a hole on this end, a hole on that end. But what I think is peculiar and particular about Gary's response here is that oh, wait, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, retard.
You compared it to, so yeah, I like it. I know you're better because I can see it objectively, which is...
Yeah, you can't see it objectively. I mean, how do you see non-existence objectively?
Funny, Gary would ask, how do you see non-existence objectively? And yet he would argue Benatar's non-existence of having no quality of sensations. Well, they're not suffering, we know that. Well, do you know it objectively, Gary? Can you mention anything objectively about the non-existent like you just said? Can ya? Fucker.
Oh, that's right, you don't.
That's right, you don't.
Being fucking dead and not in my...
Yeah, well, people being dead, you really can't be dead.
Being in reality or whatever. So,
that's one of those. That's even more basic physics than the thermodynamic issue you can't understand. The being something dead is really stupid.
Well, I choose to stay alive as long as possible.
Well, again, whether you choose to stay alive, which I don't really even know what that means, like you would choose not to stay alive, that's not the subject. The subject is whether or not this Pac-Man game is sufficiently efficient. So that's a term you can't understand. There's just no fucking possible way, right? Because that's sort of gets...
So politics, dealing with the public, dealing with masses, controlling civilizations and groups of people, that is where you get into public ethics. And is the game, oh, well, we're overpopulating, we're overconsuming, we're doing this to the planet. There's evidence of this. People wake up, look at the evidence, and start considering not populating as much, not consuming as much, not taking as much water, not doing something. Do something! Do something! Damn it! Damn it! We're all dying! The irony is that Gary wants empathy to it, and yet on the other hand, he wants to blow up the world. But I only want to blow up the world if it's a red button and it can happen once, really quickly. Ram the earth into the moon into the earth, and then the earth into the sun. Right? But in the meantime, he's gonna play politician and talk about these, well, not politician, philosopher, and talk about these ethics, when the domain of who is controlling this is really the politicians.
To the rudimentary math, which you know nothing about. Sufficient efficiency. It has to meet the minimum standards, and it's not doing that. Retard.
Okay, so it's going to call Stizer a retard again, for Stizer pointing out what Stizer pointed out. And you know, I'm frustrated with the world from a pragmatic approach of what it's doing relative to a pre-idea of what it was or what is better or what is possible. I have to bring in something from the past, something out of an idealism, or something out of my imagination to find the discontent, to believe in the pragmatics. To believe in it, I have to compare it to something that could possibly be better or that was better, right? I have to believe in that. I have to accept history as it was taught. I have to accept these facts. Whether I experienced them or not, I heard them. I heard the stories of them. So I have the idealism. I have the idea. I have a conception. I can ground it. But it only makes sense if there's these backdrops of what is better. Okay, anyway, I might be going on too long. We're at 52 minutes. Okay, I got to jump ahead. Holy shit, Mom. Sorry, guys. I didn't know this was going to go on this long. Let's see what I can do. There was something here I wanted to get at. Okay, play. No shit. Come on. Man. Shit. Okay, anyway, if you're still watching, I gotta call it a wrap because my other screen locked up. I'm sure it was good.
We're having our pure mathematical thoughts. We're just following emotions we have better relationships with, like curiosity.
Whatever. I mean, this is just kind of silly. You have to associate everything with a positive or negative value some way, so everything has some sort of taint or bite.
See, here he goes again. You have to associate everything with a positive or negative. Here he insists on this archaic binary. And granted, we are taught, we are conditioned through logic, through communication, through normative discourse. Oh, Jimmy made it to the finals today. That's good. Have a good day. Yeah, this was good. I want to do something fun. You know, that's bad. Too bad. My condolences. We have all of these conditioned words and ideas that are binary, this value system. So here comes Gary assuming that everything must have a value added to it, right? Like light. You can't just accept the fact, like in my environment, I have light. Now, if I home in and say that light, I can say that light is good, but it's reflecting off the wall in kind of this nice, like it's creating this nice texture on the wall, and it's a little darker here as opposed to the source, and it's this smooth gradation, and I like the way the shadow connects. There's other words that describe things other than good and bad, hate and like. This is my point, is the overlay of badness and goodness, the overlay of value binaries is something that is conditioned in the language. It's not something that is an absolute in the language. But in order to get a grip on the ontology and the facts of this existence, and to make description, and to order it, we often put binaries on it. Now, that's a given, but it doesn't mean that it has to be by necessity. But Gary will insist that it must. So here brings up vitamins.
Vitamins are good. Take vitamins.
Right? Vitamins are good. Take vitamins. When I'm sifting through my cabinet, I can see vitamins, but I don't think vitamin good. Even when I take the vitamin, I'm not thinking vitamin good. It's more just a ritual. It's just more like, oh, wow, this is just a habit. I'm just doing it. Right? I'm not thinking vitamin good. And so does my behavior mean it's good? Well, I also punched through a fucking glass window on purpose and fucked my hand up. Well, I did that, right? I fucked up my feet, right? I burned cigarettes at my hand, right? Like, so it's not just the normative movement that dictates it's bad, and it's certainly not some overlay that's passing through my mind and must be passing through everybody's mind, Gary, because we all have our own experiences, and you don't know whether or not other people are laying value on the things you lay value on. I say they do not. I don't say they're not capable of it. I know what it is to act appropriately in public. I know how it is to act normally, positively, correctly, but I also know how to warp through it, consider different options, think about different things, open my mind to different lingual, poetic, literature, non-logical, non-binary possibilities.
So you have positive and negative feelings towards things, just concepts in themselves. Vaccine, needle in the arm. Okay, not too bad, but not great either. Not fucking cupcake. We know how to put things in different perspectives based on some value sense.
You fucking dick, man. See, that's exactly my point. I'm not saying we don't know how to put it in there, but you're insisting that we always do put it in there. And I'm like, okay, if he's going to insist that that is the case, then that is the premises. I am saying I am arguing against your premises. Your premises is that the lingual value over binary lay is a must for all sensual descriptions that have to do with negativity and positivity, that have to do with symbols and oh, God. See, I wish this could go on. I think it's going to end me in an hour, but I don't know. Maybe I should just push it, but I don't want a chance losing the video. There's so much more in heaven and earth, Horatio, than is in your fucking Gary's philosophy.
And we even do it with colors, colors that are pleasant to our senses and colors that we find more troubling or disturbing or irritating. Yeah, that's a fact. It doesn't change our cognitive ability to add and subtract these things and to understand them in a broader general context, and to understand that car is describable. Your car, the color of car you like, those things are sort of irrelevant and pointless, but we can mechanically dissect a car and we can accurately describe its functionality, and we don't have to be all goddamn emotional about it.
Curiosity, the feeling of discovery. We're still following always emotion, so he can
Yeah, again, this is all all of that crap all comes out of ego anyway. So again, it's just more, you can't do the Freud thing. You can't be honest that the real motivation isn't some fucking discovery crap. It's I will do discovery.
These anger emotions
yeah, whatever. These anger emotions pollute. Somehow, I'm not supposed to be angry about torture. Torture's fun. Torture's everything. We deserve to make torture. We're worth it. We're worth torturing stuff. And I should know that, and I shouldn't be at all angry about things being tortured. That would be silly. Fuck you. Get it in the ass. We already have had it in the ass, and you still can't figure it out because you're so fucked.
The thing is, see, Gary's angered about things being tortured, but is he really? Like, he knows the concept. He knows that animals are being slaughtered as we speak in mass amounts. He knows that there's, animals being killed. He knows people are killing people and raping people and killing people. Like, he knows this. He has a knowledge of it. Is he sensing it, though? Is he sensing it? Like, when was the last time you saw your cat get raped by another cat? Or your cat kill a mouse? Or you saw another human fight another human? Not on TV, not through some media, but in your physical life. Like, because I contest that your values, Gary, are based on the knowledge that it's happening, as opposed to the sensual interaction of it happening. And that once again is why I brought up the whole mice lion your dad dull knife thing. Like, if it was brought home to you, you would care about things in a whole different manner than just this hate about the knowledge of, right? This, like, oh, woe is the world, and so woe is what? What then is the emotion that's motivating your philosophy? Well, it is the knowledge of that motivates your philosophy, right? And I'm simply getting at the idea of, when is this pain, this knowledge, when is this periphery of care, right? Later on, I guess I am going to go past an hour. It looks like it's recording past an hour. When is this periphery of care actually going to manifest from you in actual performance, as opposed to just saying, I knew it as 7 and now I'm this old and I'm still just a fucking talking machine. Bark, 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 bark. I mean, what am I asking for your fucking resume? Your fucking philanthropy resume? Not really, but I'm trying to get to a point.
Fucking stupid.
Communication like that happens to all of us. But we're all working from emotions, all of us. All the time.
Right, so that's it, right? We don't learn evolution, we don't learn context, we don't learn physics, we don't do the climbing out of the maze thing and view the game. We're always stuck in the game, we're always just being a pawn, we never become educated, there's no way to gain broader or more expansive context and knowledge, to gain a more universal perspective, a more absolute perspective, a more complete perspective. No, there's no such thing as a more complete perspective, there's just emotional rubbish. Fuck you, that's idiotic.
What happens, Gary, hypothetically, what happens if the most complete perspective included theism? Meaning, let's say it required theism, right? Hypothetically, just go with me here, if it did, and you're not with it, then your desire to have the most complete perspective, might be fucked. You think you've got it monopolized. You think you got it hammered down. You think you've got this argument argued out. When, if you just go back to the beginning here, I show what a fucking aspect blind fucking moron you are. Meaning, you're not a moron, Gary. Everybody respects your fight here. Get out of the self. Equate yourself with others, and, make it a logical, pain there, pain here, pain there, pain there, bad, pain here, bad, 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 bad. People know what you're doing, and so forth. just that when you see how it is you don't give a shit about other people's expressed considerations that actually pop up, that actually do gel into some ball of thought that maybe other people want to hear, right? But no, you're just going to fucking demean them. You're going to name call, you're going to shit talk them because you're the fucking prick, right? Just like my non-value approach and my so much pain that I escaped pain consideration, or my so much pain that the normative value was lowered so drastically consideration, right? These are other considerations. And will you grant that? Well, you can. If you granted my non-binary value overlay as just being a lingual process, because all we are maggots that speak language. Well, that just happens to be the part of language where we're laying these value binaries on shit that I say you don't have to do, right? So if you actually were to consider that as something real that another entity, another human entity actually experiences and goes through and feels and thinks, if you ever actually believe that could be the case with multiple humans, where they're kind of not value, they're kind of zombily moving through one another, with one another. If you could believe that humanity in pockets even could behave that way, your premises of value being in the world. And I'm not saying the phenomena of sensation goes away. I'm saying how it's looked at from the inside, from the subjective vantage point, or how it's discussed, or whether someone places a binary, a hate or a not. Like I said, I'm at the gym, and this isn't a utilitarian argument, and there's some discomfort in my legs because, God, I'm working that muscle. And I'm thinking, I like it, but it's not pleasant.
But that's not the type of emotion that's kind of impeding us from achieving.
Right. I mean, by Pyrrho standards, look, you got it all the time, right? There's guys that have a problem, right? Because they like violence and sex, and so, they got a problem. And a lot of them know that they can't act on it. Or pedophiles. Lots of examples where people have emotions, have feelings, and they know the feelings are inappropriate, the feelings are stupid, and I have to find some other way to gain my gratification than to go with it.
I agree, exactly. No, I agree with what you said in that sense.
And they're totally moderatable, they're totally understandable. They can have the emotions, they can understand the emotions, they can understand that they don't act on the emotions, they don't act on the feelings. They temper them with knowledge that that's not right, that's not appropriate, that's not possible.
Okay, I say that's a fine description of how probably a lot of people have moved, how I've moved, how you've moved, and so, yeah, there, see? You've totally redeemed yourself, Gary. Oh, man, what have I been going on about this whole time? You are forgiven, my son.
Just saying, in another sense, I don't want to blame Gary for, being emotionally driven as though we're not all. But hopefully we balance,
Yeah, I'm not just emotionally driven. Again, you're the ones pretending you're not Mangala, and that you're somehow supposed to be worthy of my friendship, or my love, or my respect, or my appreciation. No, you're sadistic, glib, imposing motherfuckers who keep saying, without actually saying it, I'm worth it. You don't have the balls to say, I'm worth torturing a few people for, all right? Because you're cowards.
Okay, Gary, if this was really a gladiator war, you against me, gladiator cage match, swords and shit, real gladiators, I would come out swinging. I'd try to take your fucking head off. Or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe at some point, kind of like when I fuck myself up, I'd go, you know what, I think I think I would rather have the knowledge that Gary killed me and that he is going to have to, you know, psychologically live with whatever the torment is of having to kill another human and just give myself up. But probably not. Anyway, the point is in a real gladiator war, not a metaphor of the evolution of the gladiator war, but a real gladiator war, you fight, and you kill the other person.
Period. And you don't want to take responsibility for the price tag paid for.
Okay, and so if it's 3 against 1, and I'm in a gladiator war, and I'm the one, I'm going to do my best to kill the 3. I guess that makes me Mangala. Mangala. What a Mangala is somebody that mangles things. That makes me him.
Your silly ambitions and your silly addiction.
We'll have a balanced approach, but it's still going to be emotional.
Well, it's pretty variable is the thing. He kind of canonizes as emotion, and I think is a psychological.
Yeah, well, I think you're fat and ignorant.
Okay, that's all he's got on me. Once again, I say he's canonizing his emotion. I'm not referring to Catholicism canons. I'm referring to it's within a canon of thought. He's thrusting, he's ramrodding some idea through a canon, and all he's got to say is, I think you're fat and ignorant. Oh, my.
Okay, and I guess I can prove both of them. Your fatness seems quite obvious, and the fact that, and you're a liar, okay, that never can paraphrase anybody correctly.
Okay, wait, I'm a liar? I'm lying. Okay, yeah, I've lied, so I guess I'm a liar, right? But if you want to say I can't paraphrase you correctly, what is it that you would like me to paraphrase? Okay, is it shared experience with other sentients, both have pain bad and pleasure good, but pain is bad, and we derive our comfort from releasing deprivation, and that occurs for all sentient beings. Now, a reduction in the occurrences, whether within me or without of me, in all sentience, where value is occurring, because this is what value is. It's not some colors and fading and other textual abstract. No, it's just strictly pain. It's fucking pain. That's what fucking value is. It's sentient neuronal nasty. That's what it is. For you fucking maggot. Okay, so I got that part right, I do believe. And now the reduction or the elimination or the not creating the possibility for such a thing via procreation is the most ethical and appropriate thing to do. Hence, do not have any more kids. Fuck you, Gary. Your argument is so basic, man, especially after, what, 7 fucking years? I can't believe you don't think that everybody doesn't already know it, and they're like, oh, well, you know, hey, I even brought it up, like, hey, let me get you with this fucking one, you know, in little parties that I've been to, like, hey, let me throw the fucking Inmendham at you.
Which is obnoxious. Fucking, yeah, you got UFOs flying out of your ass.
Kind of perspective, you know, analyzing Gary, here's a guy in his 50s, no family, he's got a philosophy.
I have plenty of family, retard. I just didn't make myself a big fucking mess to clean up. That's right.
Okay, Gary, the reason I say you do not have family, obviously I'm referring to you procreating, and by that I'm referring to your current psychological state as somebody that values this internet's communication down these lines of proactively and proactively promoting ethylism and antinatalism as you spend your time, your precious valuable lifetime doing. And I'm just denoting that you don't have kids of your own. Hence, you don't know what it is to have this other like little you that's not quite you running around, where you actually have to care for it and feed it and change its diaper and empathize with it and grow with it and teach it ethics and teach it intelligence and understand its emotional variances that you might not share, and maybe have some sort of guidance and community and pride, as the word pride being family comes through its etymological form. I'm getting at the idea that some people have that in their universe or in their pocket of experience and responsibility where you do not. I'm not referring to your extended family or where you come from. I'm noting it because of all that it comes with, not just as a blank statement fact. Gary has no family, like you just fucking popped out of the universe and you're not even part of the human tree, the human family. Stupid fucker for thinking I'm calling you an alien. Alien.
Right. I wasn't stupid enough to think I'm competent to, as Anticonavad was.
I wasn't stupid to think that I was competent. Just, you know, just that shit. Just that fucking doublespeak. I wasn't stupid to think I was competent. And I know. It's like, hey man, I wanted to go to med school, but I wasn't stupid enough to think that I was smart enough to go to med school. Like, wow, so you didn't doubt that initial stupidity and kind of give it a go, huh?
Say, play fucking a god. Or as a Hofstadter would say, play God. It's okay to play God by creating a human being and being responsible for its maintenance and outcome. That's not playing God. But realizing you're a pawn in a game, that's being godlike.
Not.
I mean, this should be ridiculed, right? I mean, this is inane logic, right?
That he wants to make true and believes it so heavily that he's willing to fight and talk over everyone on a...
I have no will to talk over anyone except when the premises of conversations have been raped right before my eyes.
Well, Gary, that's just the point, and that's why I brought up the idea of lingual value overlays and binaries. We are addicted and conditioned to them. You want to say they're a necessity. Whenever you see vitamins, you might think good. Whenever you see a vaccine, you might think little good, little bad. You might always put everything within a value binary schema. And I say not only is that not the case for most things in my periphery, I assume that everything from that chair to the wind in your hair to the breath that you're taking to the nuances of your existence, you are not valuing, unless you're doing it in a gestalt, the whole thing is shit, or the whole thing is beautiful, but you're not actually nitpicking. Only maybe when it comes into focus you do, but that is what you do, one human sentience, not all, and not groups of like, and so here you are in a community. My criticism of you in text, you are in a community of other human beings interacting with each other, and you will not listen to them because you think the premises in a room called illusions, the premises of value ethics that are shared, cannot be violated. That this binary value overlay that is a logical must on everything must also be applied for all physical, sensual, subjective, physiological notions. I guess the only other thing I wanted to say is if you continue in the initial video, you'll get to the point where Piero and I are talking about information and waves, right? The universe as wave, right? Gary's so stuck on this idea of everything's a particle and fuck this wave theory and quantum mechanics, oh, there's a bunch of fucking bullshit, right? When I'm all busy saying, hey, you know, procreation is not imposition. Procreation is composition. It's like a musical composition that we are playing out as these entities that are existing in the cosmos through this wave of time and movement. Wave like the waves and the frequencies of the sound coming out of the light that's hitting us, of the wind that blows through the air, of our breath that comes out, of everything, of the turning of the tides, of the motion of the ocean, of the motion of the stars, of the data that moves through space and time. And where can we say the physics might actually line up? Oh, well, maybe through covalent bonding, or maybe through electrons that repel against one another but move just like water through one another, where we see the waves, we see a frequency, we make a music that shows us where we are, and we know that we're not separate from it. We're part of the cosmic wave. We're surfers on an ocean, if you will, if you must have metaphor. We're embodied creatures, right? Perhaps we are angels. Perhaps we are creatures. Perhaps we are maggots, but maybe we're caterpillars that will cocoon and blossom and fly. Maybe we will fly on wind waves. Maybe things are compositionally laid out. If they're deterministically laid out in Gary's universe, well, it's all deterministic, but you have to play a role in making certain that you're playing your part to get the way of future that you want. Put in a little more time, Gary. You're slacking. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is the idea that there is information that goes into our ears and into our senses and into our eyes. I make the idea that our brain is not the source of consciousness, but that the brain is like a prism. And I say a prism because all the data of sound and sight and taste and touch and all the senses, infrared, even the unknown senses, are coming in, and it's affecting our neurology, but it's just blowing consciousness out. Data comes in one end, color of consciousness comes out the other. Brain, not the source, brain more like an antenna that's a prism. Right now, if we pop the brain open and we start burning it out, that would be like painting black spots over the prism. Okay, black spot, black spot, black spot. So less data can come in or come out, right? But still, a prism. The idea that cosmologically, every star in this universe has a gravitational pull on me, and I have a gravitational pull on it. And it's all infinite, outward, everywhere, not just our little social bundle of trying to get agreement about what truth is, but the actual ontological, if you believe in physics, really all of it has a pull on all of it and affects all of it. And then the different minutiae and differences of sense data, what we're in proximation to and what we know about, hits us and keeps hitting us and keeps hitting us, and it moves through us. So the metaphor for the brain is not the source of consciousness, it's but a prism. It's a separation, an orderliness, a entropy machine, a light machine, a color machine, a sense machine, a I am here machine, an identity machine. It's an everything that you can think of machine, and there's no reason when Pirro says this is like a quantum computer, there's no reason to deny that metaphor. I mean, back when telephones came in, oh, my brain's like a telephone. Now it's more like a radio. Now it's like a TV. Now it's a computer. How about a quantum computer? I mean, whatever. Take the next best thing. The whole idea is whatever all of this is in this universe that's moving around, that's affecting us, right? If it affects us, it's affecting us. And if it goes through us, it's going to come out in some manner. We're going to express it, sense it, or hold it in, or do something with it. But it's going to do something. So I'm just saying it's a prism is not a shitty metaphor. As a matter of fact, I think it connects more with the openness of consciousness, the publicness of our position relative to knowledge and the facts of all things, right? Some people said that a schizophrenic is somebody who cannot, who makes irrelevant information relevant, or their attempt to make irrelevant information relevant. And my experience in enlightenment through a schizophrenic modality, if that is the case, is to accept that all things, if one can logically order the cracks that I hear, or this fact, the coincidences, 1111, astrology, blah, 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 to take all data, all senses, all signs, all things on the radio, all things said, and make everything as relevant as it can fit in, and just accept until it exploded. And so with that being said, Gary, there's more variability in consideration than you can fucking possibly understand, because you've pigeonholed yourself so goddamn much. Fuck you, you stupid New Jersey fuck piece of shit. Is that all I got? Pigeon piece of shit? Pigeon? Wait, I can't steal that. Okay. Bye.